Okay, so here's the system that we're going to start with. Substitution works well when you have a variable that has a coefficient of 1. You'll notice there you have an x with a coefficient of 1. Substitution is a very good method when this is the case. You can use substitution for every one of these problems. But when you use substitution and you don't have a coefficient of 1, you're going to have a lot of fractions and things like that. And so it's not very conducive to a substitution process. The substitution problems work much better when you have a variable that has a coefficient of 1. So the first thing you have to do when you're doing substitution is find out which variable has the coefficient of 1, and anybody can look at a problem and figure out which variable that is. The second thing you're going to do is you are going to get that variable by itself. So this x that we have in our system up there has to be alone. Well, what's crowding it? The 2y. The 2y is keeping it from being alone, so the 2y needs to move to the other side. So we are going to subtract the 2y over to the other side, and we get negative 2y plus 5, or you could write 5 minus 2y. It really doesn't matter because this is all of our workbench behind the curtain work. We're not presenting an answer with all this stuff here, so it really doesn't matter what it looks like. So if you like 5 minus 2y, that's fine. Negative 2y plus 5 is fine as well. I circle that and I call that the bubble. I'm going to need that later in the problem, so I circle it so I can find it after my big mess that I'm going to make here in a second. So circle it on your paper. That's step 1. Get the variable that has a coefficient of 1 by itself. All that took was one simple algebraic maneuver. Step 2, what we're going to do is we're going to take that bubble and we're going to put it into the other equation for x. The equation that you haven't touched yet is now going to be used, and we're going to put the bubble into the other equation for x. So we rewrite it, we take out the x, and we replace the x with our bubble. So it becomes not 3x, but 3 bubble plus 5y equals 14. What does that do for us? Good question. That gives us an equation that has only one variable in it. If you look, that red equation up there only has a y. And that means that we can solve for y. So now what we have to do is we have to bring back our Algebra 1 skills or our Chapter 1 skills from this class and get that y by itself. So we're going to distribute the 3 and get negative 6y plus 15, all skills that you have. We're going to combine the y's. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. We're going to subtract the 15. And then we're going to divide by negative 1, giving us y equals 1. Everybody should have been able to follow what I did there. Simple Algebra 1, solving of an equation.
I'm following. I'm just waiting.
What does that tell us? Remember, we're trying to find the point that works in both equations. That's what we did yesterday graphing. Graph the 2 lines, tell where they hit each other. That's the point. It works in both. What do we know so far? We know that our answer is something 1. Because we have found that y equals 1. How do we find the x? You put the 1 in the bubble. if you put the 1 that you have found back into that bubble that you circled, that will tell you the x. So you put the 1 in, and we get an x value of 3. Okay, here we go. We're going to try another one. We're going to do another one together, and then I'm going to let you try one. 4x plus y equals 9. 3x minus 2y equals 4. Step 1 is to identify the variable that has a coefficient of 1, which takes no mathematical ability whatsoever, to look at that problem and figure out which variable we need to isolate. Top or bottom, x or y? Top y. Okay, so that's the variable that we have to get alone. It's being crowded by the 4x. So we need to subtract that 4x to the other side, giving us y equals negative 4x plus 9. And that is our bubble. We're going to take that bubble. We're going to place the bubble into the other equation for y. And if I write that out, it looks like that. Now our job is to solve for x. So we're going to distribute the negative 2, making sure we distribute negative 2. So we get plus 8x minus 18 equals 4. 3x plus 8x is 11x. Minus 18 equals 4. 11x equals 22. X equals 2. So my answer is 2 something. Put the 2 back in the bubble. Final answer, 2, 1.